Hi, this is Dr. Daniel Amen.
And I'm Tana Amen.
We're so excited you're with us. For this week's series, what we're doing is we're playing the live class from the end of mental illness.
We wanted you to join us on this journey because we had such a good time in our class, and the people who joined us had just saw such incredible transformation that we wanted to share the challenge with our tribe. So we wanted to share this with you, and we hope that you will join us in the challenge.
You know, actually, one of the first cases I had after I started imaging, he called himself the anger broker of the Sacramento Valley. And I saw him after he got out of a psychiatric hospital for a suicide attempt. Ooh. And he was mean. And he had the suicide attempt because his wife left him. And I completely got why she left him, because he was mean to my staff. He was mean to me. And, you know, and I don't fire patients. I just don't. I know a lot of doctors do if you're sort of a jerk to them. But after the third time, I went, I need you to go get scanned. And there, the cameras were not in the clinics at the time. And so I sent him to the next city to get a SPECT scan. And I said, you need to go do this, because if you don't do it, I won't see you, because I don't tolerate people being mean to my staff, and not to me. And so he did, because he wanted me to see him. And he had a brain that was on fire. So he was worried, rigid, and flexible. Things don't go his way. He gets upset. And he had a head injury. You could see it on the left side. I'm like, did you ever have a head injury? And of course he said no. And I went, well, are you sure? Did you ever fall out of a tree or off a fence or dive into a shallow pool? And he was riding a bike down the Colorado Rockies, and his front tire hit a rock. He flipped over onto his head. He was knocked unconscious. But he said no initially. And I'm like, really? Oh, well, you had that same thing. You and them. And when I put him on medicine to balance his left temporal lobe and to calm down his frontal lobes, no lie, he's like the sweetest person. Within 4 months, my office staff loves him, and they're just thrilled every time they see him. And was he a jerk? I mean, he acted like a jerk, but why? If you don't ask why, how would you ever know? So easy to call people bad, harder to say why. This is so enlightening and sad at the same time. How many times do people get misdiagnosed simply because insurance companies are not on board with the SPECT scan? All the time.
All the time.
All the time. You can try and kill yourself.
And it's easy to, it's like one thing to think about that, but when you think about that ripple effect of how many families are affected, how many marriages, how many kids, how many jobs, finances, like the ripple effect is crazy. It's crazy.
You have any experience?
I almost canceled my first date with you because you were a psychiatrist.
Why?
Because I didn't have good experiences.
With psychiatrists? Or?
No, with my grandmother being severely mistreated by a psychiatrist, my dad being diagnosed with Alzheimer's when he didn't have Alzheimer's, with me, myself, just terrible experiences. When I was depressed, being put on the wrong medication. It's awful. It's awful.
So I'm going to tell you a secret of how I got her to fall in love with me, because when we first met, I liked her way more than she liked me.
It's not true. I just wasn't ready to commit.
It's true. Anyways, here's the secret. Let me tell them the secret. And shortly after we met, your dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And
that's a big misdiagnosis.
Well, it's so common.
But it's terrible.
It's so common. We just saw someone today who went to like the Mayo Clinic and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And when we scanned him, he didn't have Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that's like traumatic for the family to hear.
But if you don't look, how do you know? If you don't look, how do you know? So anyways, back to the story on how I got you to fall in love with me. I have, because I've been a psychiatrist a long time, I'm like, if you want someone to fall in love with you,
You're teaching them manipulation.
do something.
He's teaching them mind manipulation right now. This is not what this class is about. It's not about mind manipulation.
It's not manipulation. It's how to get your way.
Is there a
We're
difference?
all manipulative. It's just the more sophisticated you are, the harder it is to tell. This is a bonus for those of you that are watching. Can I finish this story?
Yes. Please tell them how you manipulated me into falling in love with you.
Okay. Encouraged. Do something nice for someone she loves.
It's true. So at least if you're going to manipulate people, do something
It's
good
not
with
manipulative.
it. Do something
It's
good with it.
How to get a connection. And so when your dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, I'm like, well, we should scan him.
Yeah.
And when I scanned him, the pattern for Alzheimer's disease has been described in the psychiatric literature for 30 years, more than 30 years maybe. And he didn't have it. In fact, his emotional brain was working too hard. And I'm like, oh, he has something called pseudo dementia, which is depression that is masquerading as Alzheimer's disease. And he was actually on a toxic cocktail of medication. And when I changed his medication, put him on supplements, changed his lifestyle,
He lost 20 pounds.
he got healthier. And 6 months later, he's teaching like an all-day course at Mariners Church.
Yeah. 7-hour seminar at the church, which he was a recluse and not showering before that. But the story's a little more complicated than that because wasn't speaking to my dad. I hadn't really had a relationship with my dad ever in my entire life, but definitely not since I was 18 when I told him, bye-bye, don't talk to me again. And so now you're telling me we need to bring him to live with me.
No.
So
just
you can
to
scan
him.
No, you wanted him to come stay with me. And then you're like, well, he can't get well unless he's living with you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you want me to what? I'm like, this is a guy I don't know, don't trust. But the interesting thing is that there was no one else to take care of him. So I resisted, kicked, fought, screamed in my head, finally gave in because what are you going to do? Ultimately, what are you going to do? And as he got well, I was able to heal that relationship. And that's, I mean, to me, that was more the ultimate point of all of it was that a relationship that had been so awful, so toxic my whole life. And now finally at the end of his life, he ends up dying in my arms. When he died, he didn't die of anything brain related. It was leukemia. We had completely healed our relationship, which would never have happened if he hadn't fixed his brain. And so that was a pretty interesting turn.
Sort of a cool way to get a pretty girl to fall in love with you. I'm just saying, doesn't sound that manipulative to me.
Oh. Do we have questions?
When your brain is right, you become better at everything you do. So this is my grandfather who I loved. I was named after him. He was my best friend growing up. And he had a heart attack that took him away way too early. And so why do you want to be healthy? You know, when I think of this picture, I think of my grandbabies. We took 2 of them to the Laker game on Sunday. That was really fun.
It was really fun.
But I want to be around for as long as I can. What's your motivation to be healthy? So our mission is to end mental illness by creating a revolution in brain health. That's our goal. And you have to start today. I mean, when they say you're going to start Monday, it never works. You're going to start January 1st, because now we're a long ways from January 1st. Start today. And, we say this is just the beginning. Success starts with a healthy mind. Failure is often the result of a brain gone wrong. The good news, it's never too late to change your brain to heal your mind.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.